All right, everyone. We start off today talking about tipping because this has been in the news lately. Partially because Trump came out and said no taxes on tips. Then Kamala copied his homework like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days later and said, well, I'm in favor of no taxes on tips as well. Vote for me. And I thought that that was rather funny. And then you have various, ordinances and stuff. It's an election year. With regards to tipping, will it be taxed? Will it not be taxed? Should we have a livable wage for people who are in service work, and so eliminate tips altogether? Tipping customs around the world are very, very different. For instance, I lived in the Netherlands for a number of years. In the Netherlands, typically, you're paying your total. You just basically, the change from it, you give them a 50 on a $47 order, and that's the tip, because people there have a guaranteed wage. In the United States, of course, it's a little bit different. It differs from state to state and from culture to culture. I tip very well, typically 25% or thereabouts. Only if the service is bad does it decline from that. And if it's really spectacular, it might be above 25%. I happen to be a good tipper, and there are several reasons why. Number one, I know what it's like to be poor. And typically people who are getting tips, they're not making an enormous amount of money. So, number one, it's just like, I have the means to do so, fucking tip them well. Number two, you get better service, especially in small town America. I don't know about, big cities or something like that. If you're in small town America where you've got, 10 restaurants in the city, the people are going to get to know you. You're a repeat customer, so you're getting pizza at the local pizza place. The pizza's really good. So you're like, well, I'm going to make this a weekend event. Basically, every other weekend, I order a pizza. You're probably going to get the same delivery driver. You're probably going to be a favored customer. You're not going to have any problems with getting your pizza quickly. And number two, nice and hot and the cheese is all melted and stuff like that. I typically, therefore, tip very well. If you go to, a place where they have a tip jar or something, I'll put the change in the tip jar. I want them to know that I actually, assuming that they're doing a good job, especially with food-related things, I want them to associate me with, hey, when this dude comes in, we get a little extra money. Because that means you get faster, better service. At some point, if you're tipping really, really well, the manager might take notice too and, make sure that everything is kosher. My opinion on tipping is that it's actually a good thing, by the way. I know I ran up against some people on my live stream on Friday, I believe it was, and I was talking about tipping, or was it one of my one-off videos? I can't remember. And they're saying, well, you should eliminate tipping entirely. No, I don't think that we should. I think we should just make it tax-free. That way, if a person is specifically serving you and you tip them, they don't have to pay any taxes on it. Oh, it's a tax-free transaction? We don't have many of those in the United States. Pretty much every transaction is taxed. If I were a server, let's say I'm working in a restaurant, bussing tables or whatever. I'm delivering food to people. I would hate the idea of having a standard wage as opposed to, assuming I was a good worker, I would hate that idea as opposed to simply having a tax-free tipping rate. Because, some eccentric couple might come in and tip me $100. I don't want to fucking pay taxes on that. I think any time we can eliminate a tax, it's a good day. And so, above and beyond eliminating pretty much every other tax, I do not believe in a tax on tipping, and I don't believe in eliminating the concept. Even if you did eliminate it, let's say that you passed a law. Food workers, people work in restaurants or maybe salons or something that typically get tipped, maids. Even if you eliminated the concept of tipping, on its nose, and you said, well, you have to have a livable wage. Okay, that's fine. They're still going to get a fucking tip. They're still doing you a service. These people deserve it. If you're doing a good job, you deserve to be rewarded for that. and it should be transactionally non-taxed. That's my personal opinion. I think that tipping is actually a good thing. I think that there are some people that make a significant amount of money on the side through tips. They might make $200 in a night simply because they're good at getting the food out to the customers really quickly. They give really good haircuts. They gave a really good pedicure or something like that, and so they got, a number of tips throughout the day. That shouldn't be taxed at all. They have the opportunity to actually, it's the only meritocratic fashion left within the supposedly capitalistic U.S. economy for the most part. And in some countries, it's considered insulting to tip somebody. It's considered a literal in some countries. Oh boy, you'll get clocked actually if you attempt to tip a person. In the United States, though, people who work in certain industries, they don't make a huge amount of money as far as their standard wages, but the tips can compensate for that. So, I mean, they might make 70 grand in a year literally just working in a restaurant catering to people. This is a good thing because none of that is taxed. The less taxes you can have, the better that it can be. I realize that there are some cultures in which people would disagree with me, but as far as the United States economy goes, tips are definitely a thing. I think they'll remain a thing. I don't think that particular subset of the economy is going anywhere, and I happen to support it. If somebody can make 70, 80K a year catering tables in a low-end restaurant, boy oh boy, go for it. I'm glad that you didn't get taxed on most of that money. Now, here's the problem. Technically speaking, do you have to declare the amount that you're making? Kinda, sorta. Legally speaking, yes. Does anyone have any tracking on that cash receipt that you got? No, they don't. They don't have any fucking clue how much you made on that tip, generally speaking. Especially if it's a place that's more on the low end. If it's, a really fancy schmancy restaurant, I'm sure that they've got a dedicated accountant. But if you're working in the local Greasy Spoon, and I hand you $100 simply because I fucking love that burger, I don't want you to have to pay taxes on it. You obviously earned it. I chose to give that money to you for a reason. Maybe it's because the burger was really good. Maybe you've got the best French fries that I ever ate in my life. Maybe you just look attractive or something. I tip well. I tip well unless the service is specifically bad. And I think that everyone should do this. If you have the means to do so, like let's say you make like minimum wage or something, you probably can't afford to tip that much. If you make more though, treat the goddamn service workers, with a little bit of charity. It's a tax-free charity when you think about it. It's just one that's not a tax write-off. But you should do that anyway. Hey, this haircut's really great. Here's $50. Oh my. That burger was fucking spectacular. Here's a 20 spot. That's the sort of way that I do it, because then I know when I go back to the local business, and I prefer to patronize local family-owned and or regional chains, that sort of place. If I go back to the family restaurant, I know I'm going to walk in, they know that I tip well, they know that I appreciate the work that they're doing, and so they do it better. That's the sum and substance of it. That, and also understanding that these people, they're shit on by society when you really think about it. The government doesn't give a fuck about them. They want to tax their tips. Now, fuck that. I'll just slip them a 20 under the table and say, take this, don't declare it. Officially, my tip is $0. You didn't get a tip at all, but you've got a 20 in your wallet. And I guarantee that will happen 9 times out of 10 if they start taxing tips. It's a ridiculous idea. That's about all. Peace out.